All righty, welcome back for another episode of Two Plane Sports. Today is Wednesday, January 25th, and there's rumors swirling. Jeff Lebby to Alabama, question mark? I don't believe it, but a lot of people are saying it and talking about it, so we're going to have a few thoughts on that. Oklahoma seems to be trending in a good direction for an in-state kid. Some crystal balls have been put in. Another running back out of the state of Texas has received a crystal ball for Oklahoma. So Oklahoma is moving along nicely in a few recruitments. And then we're going to be talking a little Mike Hawkins and tying in with Jeff Lebby, talking a little David Stone. So a lot of good stuff, a lot of things that I'm sure a lot of people will have input on. And also, OU picked up a preferred walk-on. So let's start off with the preferred walk-on. Let's start on the highest of high notes, and maybe work our way down, right? So Oklahoma, I think it was Monday, picked up a preferred walk-on from an in-state kid from Bixby High School, which most people, if you're from the state of Oklahoma or in surrounding states, have heard of Bixby High School. They've gone on a tear. Their football program, whenever we were in high school, wasn't nearly as good, but they have revamped everything, and they're a powerhouse. And OU picked up a kid by the name of Cale Fugate. I believe that's how you say it. He's 5'11", 185 pounds. It looks like and appears that it's a preferred walk-on offer. And he ended up last year having 66 tackles, 5 picks, and he also caught 36 passes for 680 yards and 12 touchdowns as a receiver. On his edit that he posted on his Twitter, it looked like a defensive back or a safety. So he is going to be in the defensive backfield, obviously. They must see him as potentially contributing or at least running a really good scout team. And, I think this is a kid that had opportunities elsewhere, maybe not the best opportunities, but he certainly had opportunities to go play elsewhere. What do you think?
So the most impressive part about his stats there are the 5 picks. He's a ball hawk. I would assume he's probably going to get looks at the safety position if he's quick enough, especially with how versatile the guys that are coming in are. For the most part, it seems like every DB, outside of probably Peyton Bowen, that has committed over the last 2 cycles, can be swapped between safety or corner, and depending on their size, even play a little bit of cheetah. I know Jaden Rowe, Brandon's favorite guy, that was where a lot of people expected him to play as soon as he committed. So the versatility that the other guys have brought in kind of gives him an opportunity to maybe work his way into the lineup at some point, or the 2 deep. It's again, every preferred walk-on is always taking a huge bet on themselves. It's kind of in the name, preferred walk-on. You're not getting a scholarship. You're really just taking a shot. If it doesn't work out, like I said last time, it's much better to start at the highest level and work your way down. And when it comes to the transfer portal, if that is the route that he has to take to hopefully further his football career, as every kid wants to do and accomplish their dream and get into the NFL. But if he can, he'll probably need to gain a little bit of weight, not too much if he's playing safety. But if he has the speed, and if the right dominoes fall for him to get some time on the field, we could see him play at some point, probably not next year, maybe not even the year after that. But you're going to see guys start to graduate. Transfer portal is always an option for these players. And if he's a guy that sticks around long enough, becomes a leader in the locker room, coaches are going to be more open to giving him an opportunity, at least to show what he can do in a real game situation. I really don't expect that to be completely honest. I don't think that's going to be fully realistic. It is really hard for these preferred walk-ons to really get any time. Gavin Freeman, I think, was the only one last year that got any time on the field, and it was very, very sparingly. I think it probably should have been a little bit more. Every time he touched the ball, it seemed like he was going to do something electric. So that's kind of the one thing. You have to have one thing that you stand out in. Isn't his ball hawking skills, and Fugates could be what stands out amongst the rest, but there's got to be one thing that he does super well compared to the rest of the guys on the team, and he's just going to have to work extremely hard to try to get to that position where he can show out.
And yeah, I mean, obviously, preferred walk on is a walk on for a reason. And according to On Three, he was offered by Air Force, whether that's a full ride or a walk on there. I'm not 100% sure, but according to On Three, he was offered. And I'm sure that aren't reported as unless you go through his Twitter. I'm sure we could figure it out. I would imagine he has offers to play full on a full ride scholarship at D2 schools and D3 schools. But I think also where we have to step back and look at least whenever I was in high school, and not that I was an athlete by any means or being recruited by any school for anything. Um, when you really look at it, most kids realize, unless you're extremely special in high school, your long-term career potential is probably not what you would hope it to be. And when you look at the degree, while Oklahoma, some people will argue that isn't a prestigious degree. I believe it is. I mean, when you're comparing it to Stanford or MIT or somewhere like that in Yale, maybe it's not. But for the average person like you and me, it's a great degree. And my biggest thing going into school is I wanted to have a degree where most people had an idea where that school's at, and it carries some weight and it's accredited and everything else. And maybe that's what he's looking at. He said, you know what? I've got an opportunity to at least try this. And if it doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. I can go and be a normal student like 99% of the other student population, the rest of the student population. And I can go with my friends because I'd imagine he's got friends going from Bixby to OU. So if it works out, great. And I'm sure he's going to work hard, but he's probably also thinking, I don't want to go to a small D2 or D3. I want to have the full college experience. And I don't fault him for that. And if it works out, that's great. And I'm guaranteeing you, someone in this 23 walk-on class will probably break through at some point. I'm not saying full time or a first round draft pick, but someone's going to break through. I mean, that's just the odds are when you bring in so many walk-ons, and just like when Bob Stoops was doing it, eventually kids will break through and kids will impress. So that's just my thought on it as far as a walk-on goes. I mean, people know at the end of the day, you might want to play in the NFL, but can you play in the NFL? I mean, you might as well go prove it at OU.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I think you said perfectly. If he wants to continue playing football, transfer portal is an option where he can work his way down in size and with regards to size of the program and the impact it could have on his career, or he could do exactly what you did. And I had pretty much the same sentiment. Out of high school, most kids, unless they're trying to go on to athletics or for whatever reason, sometimes I guess there's financial obstacles that prevent people from going to school, and hopefully those, that's a different topic, but for the most part, people that end up going to OU would probably want to follow their friends, have been lifelong Oklahoma fans, want to go to a big university. So there's got to be something in that when it comes to being a preferred walk-on at a program like Oklahoma, where you're probably wanting to go to the school that you grew up loving.
And all you can ask for is a fair opportunity. And that's what I think this staff will give to every walk-on and scholarship player, is a fair opportunity to compete and contribute. So that's all you can ask for. And talking about another Oklahoma kid, we'll shift gears into Taylor Hine. We talked about him on, I think, the previous episode. 6'3", according to 247, but I believe he's actually 6'5", 190 pounds from what I've seen on Twitter and other things. He's from Bethany, Oklahoma. He's a multi-sport athlete. And if you missed our episode, I believe doing some detective work on Twitter, Brent Venables went to his basketball game, was there, watched him play, and offered him after the game, which I think is pretty cool, being in a small town. And over the last, what was it? It was yesterday. So Tuesday, he received a crystal ball from Parker Thune in favor of Oklahoma. And looking through his Twitter likes, he liked that tweet that the Covered Wagons Recruiting tweeted out about the crystal ball. He liked the tweet. And then you scroll through his likes, and being like Jose, it's a lot of Oklahoma stuff. And if he is to take a visit to Oklahoma in the near future, you would like to think that Oklahoma would be the landing spot. I mean, you've got a crystal ball here. He's liking stuff all over it. He's an Oklahoma kid. Oklahoma is the most prestigious football school that has offered him. I mean, what do you think? I think this is all but done.
Yeah, that if he is going to take a visit, and I would assume he is, because National Signing Day, the normal one that's been around forever, is coming up in a week. Probably wants to check out the university if he can. I don't know if we have any more official visits, official or not. He can make it there pretty easily since he is in state. Probably gonna check it out, see what the facilities are like, because I'm not sure if he's ever been on a visit with the staff or visit at all to Oklahoma. So taking one wouldn't hurt. Kind of like who was it? Wasn't it Devon Sears and the McCullough brothers? Everyone already kind of expected them to be there, and their visits were more formalities. So if Haim or Heem takes a visit, it'll probably be more of a formality, so we can get to know everyone, get to know the coaching staff as a whole a little bit better, and go ahead and verbally commit to them over the weekend again if you were to take a visit.
Yeah. And I mean, it's hard, like we've talked about growing up in Oklahoma, you're either an OU or OSU fan. And I would say more people are OU fans. So odds are he probably is an Oklahoma fan. And that OU offer definitely probably means something. So, and he's a guy that he's basically, I think we talked about it a little on the last episode, is where he's going to play if he does go to Oklahoma. I don't know, but he's going to be thrown around in so many different positions wherever they're thin and wherever there's an opportunity to compete for playing time. If I were him, I'd be like, I don't care if I'm offense or defense, wherever I can get on the field, that's where I want to be. So that's what I imagine what will happen with him if he does indeed make the move and stay in Norman, which I'd like to think it will happen. So I'm curious to think what people think. And if you made it this far, we're not done yet, but like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn notification bell on, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, and TikTok. Everything's linked in the description below. Our Twitter and Instagram have been growing like crazy. So if you aren't following us on there as we go into National Signing Day, the real National Signing Day, but it seems like the forgotten National Signing Day at this point. Be sure to follow us on there so you can get the up to the minute information, and then obviously come back and check out the videos. So the next guy is Jeremy Payne. I don't believe, and you might correct me if I'm wrong, we've ever talked about him on here. So Jeremy Payne, he's from Missouri City, Texas, 5'10", 170 pound running back, in the 2024 class, 4-star. According to 247, he's a number 10 running back in the class. Their composite rating has him as the number 15 running back. So a solid top 165 player in the country. So one of the better players. He put together couple good seasons. His sophomore and junior season, he played in both, and combining those two years at the varsity level, he carried the ball for 2,444 yards, 23 rushing touchdowns, had 551 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. So he had a total of nearly 3,000 total yards and 26 touchdowns in 2 years as a sophomore and a junior going into his senior season. Oklahoma received a crystal ball in favor of them from Nick Harris, who's from the Rivals website, and a guy that kind of, in my opinion, maybe I just wasn't paying attention, kind of came out of the blue. What do you think?
Yeah, if you guys read the article that Nick put out, I want to say it was Monday. He mentioned that Oklahoma's a school to beat. Seems like DeMarco Murray is really him and DeMarco Murray have really developed a good relationship. And even though Jeremy isn't going to make a decision anytime soon, it's going to be everyone versus Oklahoma. And Oklahoma has a significant lead over everyone else. Watching his tape, he kind of reminds me of a Javante Barnes coming out of high school. He hits those gaps super hard, and it's tough to get him. He had in space. He's dangerous. He'll put his head down and just truck people over. And he's got breakaway speed. So to me, he's going to be kind of Javante's replacement. If he were to commit to Oklahoma, he'd be Javante's replacement after Javante were to move on, either from graduating and going to the NFL, whatever his career, the future of his career looks like. It's still TBD, but Jeremy is a very good running back at the high school level. You just rattled off his stats, and in both years, he was first team selection for the division that he plays in. So pretty good there. And it's not like again, it's Texas football. He played, so his school was 5A his sophomore year, and now they're 6A most recently. So it's not like there's other running backs. There's not any other running backs in those divisions that wouldn't compare. Like we probably have talked about many other 4 and 5 star players at that position that probably have been selected to those teams, and he's right there with them. He's going to be probably climbing if he keeps having these performances on the field and does well at some of these camps over the offseason. It wouldn't surprise me if he climbs the ranks a little bit, maybe even starts sniffing that top 100 range. It's just tough to climb as a running back because there are so many running backs, and defensive linemen and quarterbacks kind of get preference on climbing a lot faster in the rankings. But Jeremy's a dog when it comes to running the ball, downhill runner. It would be exciting to get him in this class. And the running backs, I know we've talked about a few, but it really seems like if you want to play at Oklahoma while OU isn't in a rush like we were with the previous staff to get commitments super quickly, you do not want to wait till the last second as a running back to try to get a spot to play for Oklahoma. If you're between OU and somewhere else and there's only one spot left as a running back, you better go ahead and just take that OU spot if you think that's going to be where you're going to be the most successful.
Yeah, and DeMarco Murray's really has built this running back room to be an elite level with the amount of talent he's got in there. And talking about 2024 recruiting, the running back recruiting as a whole, not only do you feel good about Jeremy Payne, but when you look around in the state of Texas as well as Taylor Tatum, I know Oklahoma's been recruiting him, and according to 247, he's the number 3 running back. And then you look down a little down the board. You've got Stacey Gage at number 17. Now he's obviously from Oklahoma, I believe Hugo, Oklahoma, way back in the day. He's now in Florida right now, but obviously he's got Oklahoma ties. And then right below him at number 18 is Caden Durham from Duncanville, Texas. Caden Durham is an elite running back. And while I think he's a little underrated according to 247's ratings, he put together a fantastic year for Duncanville and was their MVP in their state championship game and was the reason why they won. So you've got 4 guys, and honestly, they probably have 2 scholarship openings. So it's going to be a race for these 4 guys, and maybe there's someone that Oklahoma identifies later, and maybe someone that they're talking to that we just don't know yet. But I am not concerned at all about this position. Any of those 4 guys, any combination of those 4 guys, I'd be ecstatic, and I wouldn't think twice about. Whoever wants to commit first, I'm great. I mean, it's really they're all good.
And we're probably going to get caught off here because we're still really early in this recruiting process. I mean, we still got 11 months before these guys can sign a piece of paper for early signing day. So, I mean, I think if we think back to last January, I don't remember really talking about Hollywood Smothers very much. He didn't really come around until like early summer where we really started to chat about him, and then his recruitment kind of went really fast to go OU's way. So there's going to be a couple more guys that could join the mix here for these positions. And I mean, honestly, I don't think Stacey Gage is probably the biggest long shot in the group that you just mentioned, just because it seems like schools like Alabama and Ohio State are really pushing for him as well. And then he's still in Florida. He's kind of bouncing around a lot of high schools down there. So Miami, I'm sure, is going to try to get in the mix. Florida's going to try to get in the mix even more so than they probably are already. So going to be tough to get him to want to come back to Oklahoma, given that once he's transferred high school so many times, it's stuck to Tampa. He hasn't gotten. I don't know if all of his family's down there, but it's not like they're moving back to Oklahoma anytime soon, or he isn't at least.
No, and also, we had Thune on for a while ago talking about defensive lineman recruiting, but he brought up a good point. I think staff's looking at this. When you've got elite talent within like a state radius of Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, Kansas, Colorado, when you've got this plethora of talent and you don't really have to go outside of that, why would you? Because when you look at Taylor Tatum's from Longview, Texas, Jeremy Payne's from Missouri City, Texas, and Caden Durham's from Duncanville, Texas. You got 3 guys right down the road from you. I mean, I do agree. I get the feeling that even though Stacey Gage is from Oklahoma, the odds of Oklahoma landing him, just my gut feeling, aren't great. And you want to talk about a guy that we were talking about a year ago at this time that's no longer a part of this class is Trey Wisner. You remember him who went
Yeah,
to Texas?
that was a weird recruitment because it seemed like right up until he committed to Texas, it was Oklahoma all the way, and then it was like random. No one even, at least from the outside, no one knew he was going to commit, and then he's like, boom, Longhorn forever or whatever, and it was over. I mean, but I mean, again, look at what Oklahoma ended up getting. We got Caleb Hicks and Dalen Smothers, and Dalen again wasn't a guy that jumped in towards the end, and is ranked much higher than Trey at the end of the ranking system here with 24/7 and all the other platforms.
Yeah, because you're right. Dalen Smothers was not on their radar at all, from what I remember. And I'm taking a quick look back right now, because Wisner committed to Texas on April 23rd, and the Dalen Smothers didn't commit to Oklahoma till July 14th, and Oklahoma offered March 20th. So there must have been something behind the scenes that by March they knew that Trey was not going to be a part of the program. So if we see some more offers in the 24 running back room, I would assume that someone is Oklahoma's moving on.
Probably Stacey Gage.
I would imagine that
Yeah.
that's my gut feeling. We have no information, but that's just a gut feeling.
I mean,
Makes
it
most
just
sense.
seems as much as the staff will really want to try to start building a pipeline from Florida to Oklahoma. Again, like you mentioned, Parker said, they're also really trying to reestablish those roots in Texas again, trying to get into Missouri and Arkansas. Like their priorities are much easier to accomplish in the neighboring states than it is to try to get all the way to the East Coast down to Florida and trying to get that construct that very long pipeline, especially when some of these guys probably didn't grow up Oklahoma fans, probably didn't really think about Oklahoma twice until they got to high school ball and recruiting really started ramping up for them. And they also have to fly, like, think about just visiting wise, right? They'd have to fly over every single SEC town until they got to Norman. Other than maybe Austin, I guess you could say it's kind of similar scenarios where they're having to fly all the way across to the other side of the SEC, but it's just a little tougher to get those guys to come over.
It is, but a lot of good things are happening. And at the end of the day, more offers are bound to go out, and people are bound to move on from other schools and other players. And there's going to be a lot of moving parts. I mean, it's January 25th, and we're 11 months out, like you said. So a lot of good stuff, but I'm not concerned with what Oklahoma's got coming. So let's move on to the rumor mill. We talked about it a little bit on Monday's show. Bill O'Brien ultimately took the offensive coordinator position for the New England Patriots, which, as you can tell, I am a fan. I am happy he is back. We don't have Matt Patricia calling plays anymore, and it's awesome. Now, unfortunately, there's a domino effect here that could affect one of my teams. Is obviously Jeff Lebby. There's rumors of him maybe making the move to Tuscaloosa and becoming their offensive coordinator. And I don't really buy it when you take a step back, and we talked about it. We don't have to really go into it, but I mean, he's OU's his alma mater. He's getting paid as one of the highest assistants. OU is bound to make him a raise, I'm sure, to keep him. And after the way the season goes, I have a hard time believing that he would just leave his alma mater the way it is. You just signed, I think, the best quarterback in the class. Why would you not want to see that through, at least for a couple years of him playing? And then why not wait and not move your family again until a head coaching job that you like presents itself? Because at the end of the day, I mean, picking up your family and moving them to Tuscaloosa, and then to move them again within a year or two, maybe 2 years after being at Alabama, across the country again, wherever that may be, that's a lot of moving after just moving from Oxford, Mississippi. So there's a whole human side of it that would be tough. And I just don't see it happening. And I know Alabama is probably really wanting them, but when you step back, is it really worth a lateral move? I don't know. Maybe I'm just being biased. And all I got to say is everyone that didn't like Jeff Lebby and wanted him fired, it seems like everyone's like, please don't leave.
Yeah, Alabama needs to get the hell out of here. Mel Tucker's trying to come in and take Oklahoma kids, and now Alabama's trying to take our offensive coordinator. The one thing that I think just shows you how this staff is improving from the last staff is we never really heard about other schools trying to poach anyone from the previous staff, any assistant coach. Those coaches ended up. Did anyone even just leave? I mean, I know Mike Stoops got canned, and then we got Grinch, but there wasn't guys that were, you know, taking steps
If
forward in their career.
yeah, yeah, there really wasn't.
So, I mean, the staff is, I mean, at least the offensive coordinator from the outside looking in, I know some of us, and that myself included, think that Jeff Lebby still has some things to improve upon. But I think for the most part, we can at least acknowledge he doesn't suck, and other teams see that he is a very good offensive coordinator. I don't think I agree with you. I still don't think he'll leave. There's other candidates out there. For the most part, the MO with Nick Saban has always been to bring back either bring someone back that's worked for him before or promote one of his analysts that is maybe a little bit older and has had experience as a play caller before, or go get someone to rehab their career. Essentially, that's what he did with Bill O'Brien. He did that with Sark. He did that with Lane. I mean, this going after, I understand that they would really like Jeff Lebby, but it would make more sense if they go after like a Dan Mullen, someone who isn't a coach currently, has had experience as a play caller, has had head coaching experience, just is kind of in the dumps in regards to the coaching world, coming back, going to Alabama as a coordinator, and then eventually getting back into the head coaching role somewhere else. Jeff Scott was a really good offensive coordinator for Clemson. I mean, I'm kind of just throwing out names, but these are guys that would fit the MO that Nick Saban has traditionally gone after and has been successful at hiring and resurrecting some of these careers.
Yeah, I mean, and also, I mean, he's replacing the defensive coordinator as well, Pete Golding. So replacing both coordinators. I don't really see Lebby leaving. If he does, I would be shocked, and we'll talk about it when it gets to that point, if it
Yeah.
does.
Who do you?
And then
Well, real
what?
quick. I know we've got a player to talk about, but who do you think would make sense for the other one? Because thinking about defensive coordinators, I mean, like a Gary Patterson, he's known to be a good defensive coordinator, is just the assistant to the head coach or whatever at Texas. I think that would be a splash hire for Nick Saban to try to get that defense to its peak of what it was a few years back.
That hire would be elite. I mean, could you imagine Gary Patterson having 4s and 5 stars all over the field? I mean, he would tear up the
Yeah.
SEC. And I think if Nick Saban called him, I think Gary Patterson would have a hard time saying no. I don't really have a name. That Gary Patterson suggestion is a great one. I'd imagine he might have someone under his wings, but it seems like if he's going after Lebby, he might be trying to take some big swings and really trying to. I think he feels like we got to beat Georgia. We need to win now.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. It's really going to be interesting to see what ends up happening. If Gary Patterson goes, that's going to be really sad. I'm going to be upset.
Yeah. The board is going to need to ante up some dollars here because Jeff is going to be the highest paid assistant either at Alabama or at Oklahoma. And I still don't think he leaves, but we're going to need to give him a raise to make sure he doesn't even get tempted to leave.
Yeah. So, and someone that it's kind of like a domino effect is Michael Hawkins, 2024 4-star quarterback out of McKinney, Texas. He's a top 15 quarterback according to 247. He's coming up for a visit this weekend for the junior day. He's set to announce his commitment on January 31st. At least publicly, that's what he's put out. That's all we know is still this commitment is still on. If you see him pull the trigger and commit to Oklahoma after this weekend, I think that all but like puts to bed this Alabama stuff because Hawkins is not going to commit to Oklahoma if Lebby was going to leave. I mean, that's really, if you see Hawkins push back his commitment date, not that I think he would, I would just think that potentially he's getting the feeling that could there be something? Maybe I need to step back and wait and watch. But I mean, at this point, he's got it publicly still scheduled. So you would think he's going to announce, and it's just between OU and Arkansas lost their offensive coordinator. So it's looking good for Oklahoma.
Yeah, in a just absolutely terrible world, and Jeff Lebby did end up leaving, Michael Hawkins might be getting the shit end of the stick, the definition of the shit end of the stick when it comes to recruiting, because it was between Arkansas and Oklahoma. Arkansas gets their offensive coordinator snagged away from them. They're no longer in the picture. It seems like it's Oklahoma all the way. It's just waiting, just time now at this point for him to make that announcement. Um, if Jeff Lebby were to leave, then he would essentially have to restart this entire thing. TCU would probably get a lead because that's where Bryles is now. Alabama, I believe, already has their quarterback in the 2024 class, so that really wouldn't be an option for him unless Alabama ends up taking two quarterbacks, two classes in a row, which seems probably unlikely with what they'll need to replace on the offensive side of the ball. So it would really be a tough situation for Hawkins. I agree with you. If Michael Hawkins does end up committing to Oklahoma on the 31st, then the Jeff Lebby things are probably put to bed. And one of the things I've seen a lot on Twitter is if Jebby did end up leaving, I do think that Michael Hawkins does end up having to push back his commitment date. And Oklahoma's probably still in the mix. It would just depend on who the offensive coordinator is. But it's all been surrounding Jackson Arnold, which, in fairness, I get why. It's not like a crazy idea that you'd start stressing about a Jackson Arnold potentially thinking about leaving after 1 year or even entering the portal this early before really even taking a snap at Oklahoma. I really don't think that's real. I don't think that is going to happen because how this staff is recruiting. They're not recruiting because you should come play in my offense or you should come play in my defense. It's you should come play at the University of Oklahoma because we're going to put you in a position to be the best man and the best football player that we can get you to be. Now,
Yeah.
if like Lebby in 2 years gets a head coaching job and Jackson Arnold just isn't very happy at Oklahoma, if that were the case, I'm just throwing out a scenario, then maybe I could see it happening. But and I really don't think that if Jeff Lebby leaves, we have to worry about Jackson leaving with him because when he has taken a snap at Oklahoma, I think he's kind of really invested so much time and effort in getting this class together, along with other guys like Joshua Bates and Derek LeBlanc, that it would kind of have completely been a waste of time this last year and a half for him because now he's just leaving. Like, yeah, I just don't think it's really something that we have to worry about.
No, I would agree. I would agree. So we'll just talk about it more as time goes and maybe more information comes out, but I feel good. So moving on, the last topic is David Stone, 2024 5-star, number 2 defensive lineman in the entire class. Obviously, originally from Oklahoma, playing at the IMG Academy. He's not scheduled to visit Oklahoma this spring. He received a crystal ball at Michigan State recently. 6'4", 270-pound defensive lineman, a game changer along the defensive line, and a Todd Bates must get. I still feel like Oklahoma's the place. Maybe I'm being naive and delusional. I just think he's solid with Oklahoma, and he's obviously telling Michigan State that he likes them as well, and I'm sure he does. I think I saw on social media he went to Washington, but I just don't get the feeling that when push comes to shove, when he has to put pen to paper and make a business decision, I just don't see him going to Michigan State.
I wish I could agree. I really do. But Michigan State, for some reason, is making it harder and harder on what it seems should have been a slam dunk for Oklahoma. I don't think Oklahoma's out of it by any means. It just Michigan State's pulling at everything they can to get David Stone to really, really consider going and wearing their uniform. I mean, he's visiting, I think it was Tennessee, Miami. He's going to A&M's game, a spring game. But something he mentioned, and because someone asked him in the tweet where he said where he kind of listed where he was going to visit, someone asked why no Oklahoma, why aren't you going to Oklahoma? And he mentioned he visits Oklahoma all the time because his sister is a student there. He just doesn't ever post about it every time he goes and is in Norman, which is fair. I mean, if he is there that frequently, then it's probably just going to be redundant posts. But he still has a connection to those coaching staffs. He still has roots in Oklahoma because of his family. This staff just needs to find a way to get him to visit, even if it's unofficially, like at the end of the school year, just whenever he's moving back from IMG for the summer. Get him early, get him to visit 3 times. Early on when he first gets back, sometime midsummer, probably for the first event, and then hopefully he's already committed by then, so that for the last summer event before he goes back to the IMG Academy, he's just going to help recruit the rest of the 2024 class. But the longer this goes, the more stressed I'm getting, and it might be unnecessary, but it feels like this recruitment could have been over. And I get that this coaching staff is always tells these guys to go and really get recruited, and it seems like he is. You mentioned he went to Washington. He's taking all these other visits. It's not like he's just going between Michigan State and Oklahoma, going to a lot of places. But God, I wish he was just already committed. Him, along with Michael Hawkins, to lead the class in recruiting would be a very solid beginning to try to get a top 3 class, because we've seen what it in the last 2 years now in NIL world what it takes, and anything under like 305 composite score isn't going to cut it.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously I'd love to have it locked down, but I certainly hope by summertime when he moves back, Oklahoma has got him in his backyard, or they've got him in their backyard, lock it down. I hope by summer in the Champ U barbecues where he's recruiting everyone else. So we'll see. Do you have any final thoughts or any individual challenge?
What in the video challenge, just what do you guys think about this whole Jeff Lebby situation? I'm sure some of you guys hate him. Do you hope that he leaves as soon as possible? Or for those of you that love him, are you stressed about if he did leave about Jackson Arnold?
That'll be interesting. I'm sure we're going to see both sides of this. So, made it this far, like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the notification bell on, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, and TikTok. Everything's linked in the description below. And we will catch you guys on Friday.